Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DMV Business Show. I'm your host, Otto Sevilla, and today I have a very special guest for you, Margarita Womack. Margarita is the founder and CEO of Latin Goodness Foods, also known as MasPanadas. And not only that, she also holds a PhD, an MBA, and has received E&Y's Mid-Atlantic Entrepreneur of the Year Award. Welcome to the show, Margarita.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming and being here. Before we go into your story, if the audience haven't heard of MasPanadas, if you can give them just a rough general overview of what you are, please.
So we are a manufacturing company and associated brand. So we make frozen empanadas just outside Rockville, Maryland. And yeah, you can find our product, MasPanadas, pretty much anywhere along the East Coast, and retailers like Whole Foods, Mom's Organic, Dawson's Market, and various others.
Nice. Are you originally from the DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia area?
No, I'm originally Colombian. I came to the US now 20 plus years ago.
Okay. What part of Colombia?
Bogota, the capital.
Bogota. Okay. And I guess, how old were you when you came here to America?
I was right around 19, 20 years old.
Okay. Okay.
Came from
So
college.
nice. So a lot of growing up, as far as the early years of life, pre-20, was in Bogota.
Yes.
How was it growing up there? If you remember, like, what did you like? What were you into?
Animals, nature. That was kind of my thing then. I actually thought as a little kid that I would be a veterinary. And soon I realized it was more of a biologist because I like more than anything asking questions about the why, right? Why is the world a certain way, or why you find a bird in a certain place and not others? And I would spend my weekends chasing after snakes in the woods and turning rocks to see what I could find underneath, and riding horses. That was the other thing.
Oh, nice. Did you have any pets at home?
Yes, we did have more like a zoo, really. My parents are really also inclined, and they really enjoy animals in general. So we had dogs and cats and fish and a turtle.
Oh, nice. When you mentioned turning rocks, it just brings me back. I have three young boys, and my oldest, Liam, we would take him to different camps, and one of them is a nature camp here. And we would always go to creeks and streams, and he's always turning rocks, and he's like, "Oh, Papa, the salamander, salamander or something," and he just loves that, and we would catch it and grab it, and it was a ton of fun.
He might be a good biologist. And funny enough, I also have three boys, and my oldest is also called Liam. How about that?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
How old is your oldest?
13.
Oh, mine's turned 12 in July.
Wow.
Very close in age. I didn't know that. Okay, that's interesting. So you at a young age, you have a love for animals, and you think you're going to be a vet. Does that change later before you leave Bogota, or is it when you come here?
Yes. So I decided that really biology would be the best path for me. And that sticks. I actually started biology at Universidad de los Andes in Bogota before moving to the US. That was not really the plan at all. I always thought I would come later for something like a PhD, which I eventually did. But it's very good education in Colombia, and you usually live with your parents until you get married. And it was just what fit at the point and what felt right. But FARC, one of the main guerrilla groups in Colombia, was trying to extort my mother. And so it became unsafe and we had to leave.
Oh, wow. Okay. And when you come here, do you originally come to the DC metro area?
No, so originally to New Orleans,
Okay.
Louisiana. So I went to transfer to Tulane University from Universidad de los Andes.
Okay. Yeah, Tulane's a great university. And then you finished there biology?
Yeah. So I wasn't turning rocks then. I was studying spiders and lizards. But so I would sit in the middle of campus in the bushes, and people would walk by like, "Did you lose something? Your keys? Can I help you?" Like, "No, I'm trying to catch a lizard." So yeah, I think people thought I was a little crazy. But hey, I had a professor doing the same thing with me. So
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So you finished Tulane, and then you immediately go and pursue PhD, or what happened?
yes, well, pretty much. I spent a year, I think, in between, where I
Hmm.
stayed at Tulane as a laboratory assistant. So I finished some research projects first.
Okay. And then you get your PhD there as well, right?
I went to Princeton for my PhD.
Okay. Always in sort of biology field. Okay.
Ecology and evolutionary biology. So for my graduate thesis, I researched the genetic basis of pigmentation differences between sister species of Drosophila. Yay. So that's the thing about PhDs, you become an expert in this tiny little sliver of knowledge, but you know everything about it. It trains your brain though to problem solve, which I think is a huge skill and has actually paid off now as a different life, right? Now as an entrepreneur, it's that structured thinking that helps you tackle any kind of problem that comes your way.
Yeah. No, you definitely need that for a business owner. I guess your plan back then was maybe becoming a professor. Is that what you had in mind, or? Okay.
Exactly. Yes. I wanted to be a professor and do research and more research, and who knows, maybe eventually win the Nobel Prize or something like it. But became a little bit disenchanted, honestly, with academia at some point because I would see people ahead of me that would struggle finding a job for many cycles and ended up having to taking a job that they were not happy with. And that most professors don't really have the time to do research any longer themselves. They supervise students, they write grants, and they go to committees. So that's not as fun. So when my husband got a fellowship to come to DC through the American Academy for the Advancement of Science to collaborate with government for a year, then I moved to this area thinking, well, let's see what could come next. And that's when I first transitioned into teaching.
Where did you start teaching?
National Cathedral School.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of fun because it's the chance, I really, really like teaching. There's a chance of come and look with me into the void. Let's try to understand what's happening, right? Let's figure this one out. And especially middle school, it's what I was teaching. They have enough understanding so you can scratch more than the surface, but they're still really playful. And there's not the pressure of, well, you got to get the best grades to get into college, right? So you can really do some fun stuff and get them excited about science. And that was quite fulfilling.
I'm glad you mentioned excitement. We were just having a conversation over dinner. I think it was yesterday with my middle son, Adam, and he was telling me how his music teacher, he was like, I'm like, how's school and everything? And he was like, and he mentioned music. I don't know how the subject came about music. He's like, Papa, I don't really like it that much. I'm like, really? He's like, my teacher is just so blah and boring. He was like, there's no excitement. I'm like, you have to have excitement. So now you mentioned excitement, Marita. I just remember dinner table last night. And I'm like, you sort of need that, especially when teaching children. And he's still in elementary school, my middle one. But yeah, that's definitely needed.
Exactly. That makes, I think, a huge difference no matter what you do. But if you think about teachers that you might remember or professors through college that really made an impact, it's those that had that excitement, that fun, that extra something with passion in what they're teaching. I think it makes a big difference that can really impact people.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get the class excited, most of them at least. And if you're teaching a subject and you're not excited about it, how are you going to transfer that to the children? Same thing with a business owner. You have a product or service, you need to be excited about it, because then how is your team going to be excited?
Yes, that passion is the key ingredient. Completely agree.
So you start teaching and you do that for a while.
4 years.
Okay. And then I guess, does the idea of business is always in back of the mind, or what happened?
Yes. So I guess the entrepreneurship bug is always, it's something that's always been with me. As a little kid, I had my father to look up to that was kind of a serial entrepreneur. And then my mother's family, it's a family business. So it's always something that was in the environment, right? And so I always had this idea of I want to do a business. So I started by selling candies at school. Then I would make bracelets and sold them at school. At some point, I was an Herbalife representative. Made quite a bit of money, actually, enough to pay my way to the yearly convention in Orlando as a teenager. I started a rabbitry at some point. I was breeding rabbits. Once all my friends had a pet rabbit, business started kind of falling behind. But it's always something that's been there. And the idea originally was not to have the big business that it is nowadays, but it was meant to be a small catering business to help a friend. So she came to help me with 3 boys. There was a point where I was teaching full time, right? Two young boys and a baby, and I was pretty much ready to jump out the window. So she came to help. And so by starting the catering business, it was the opportunity to give her her job as a chef and be able to get her working visa. In the end, it was very naive because you can't quite do it out of your kitchen. It was supposed to be just for friends and neighbors from a home kitchen. And so we had to go to the incubator kitchen in BC, Union Kitchen, where then I get immersed in the entrepreneurship world and the food industry and fall in love with it. And honestly, originally, when I quit my teaching job and I started the MBA, at the same time I started this empanada business, I was meant to be participating in my family business and expanding it into the US. And I got licensed as a real estate agent in DC and Maryland. And that was supposed to be the main thing. But I didn't like it at all. While the empanadas were so much fun and were really taking off, that passion, that's where it was. And not only, from the catering menu, we realized that empanadas are the best sellers and there's a real business opportunity in frozen foods. But the other part is people. So as the team starts growing, it's always Hispanics that come our way. And even though we couldn't get the visa for this original friend, she goes back to Colombia, it's still the core, the soul of the business is helping immigrant women. So over 80% of our workforce are female, 55 employees right now, by the way. 95% are Hispanic, many of them refugees that we help not only with a good paying job and benefits, but a community that they can plug in and extras, wellness classes, financial literacy, tools and skills that you need to successfully transition to a life in the US.
Wow, that's wonderful. Margarita, so when you start, you're in this food incubator and you're also teaching full time and you have 3 young children at home. How I'm sure it was crazy. And you're doing everything too, or did you have help with the business?
So at the beginning, I had this friend, right?
Okay.
And she was a chef, and she was doing most of the actual prepping. But it was very, very small at the beginning, right? It's like, okay, there's a business, and we sell empanadas, but email Friday, the server in the neighborhood, hey, why don't we do empanada Friday rather than pizza Friday? This is something different. So we get a few orders that way, right? So it was extremely small at the very beginning. So it doesn't really take any time at the very beginning. Until then, I stopped teaching, technically still doing the real estate aspect of things, start the MBA. Then it starting to pick up little by little. Not what it is today. That's a 24/7 job, and there's always more on the list that I never get to.
Sure. So at one point, did the business, I guess, was there a time or a part where it just scaled? You notice, I know you said you left real estate in the family business that you were thinking of doing or you were starting to do, and then you went full time with the food. And then was that when you started seeing the scale, or was it at a later point?
Later point. So I did really the real estate aspect for about a year, was technically the main thing. And I was at the same time doing an executive MBA at Georgetown. So that took practically all my time. It was not till towards the end of the executive MBA, so 2 years into the business, that I decided real estate is not really the thing for me. And we start getting orders from Whole Foods. So we get into Whole Foods, and suddenly it's, oh my goodness, we have to do 40 cases. At that point, it was crazy. Like, how are we going to make 40 cases? There's going to be so much more attention. Nowadays, we make, I don't know, we made like 8 pallets a day, and that's like, I don't know, it's several hundred cases, right? So, but that's the point where, okay, this has a future. This might be more than enough to fill my time and justify filling my time. So it's about 2 years into the business where I actually take this on full time.
How difficult or easy was it to get your foot into Whole Foods?
At that point, it wasn't so bad.
Okay.
It was different though, because it was just before Amazon bought them or just after. So it was not as centralized as it is nowadays. So the region had its own buyer and its own everything. They have a very strong local program at the point. It was very easy to access. They were always into finding local brands. I'm not sure what it is like nowadays. I know it's much more centralized. And Union Kitchen was huge support in this regard. They had established a relationship with Trader Joe's, with Whole Foods. And the moment they feel brands in their program were large enough, then they would connect us with Whole Foods, who would do the pitch. Whole Foods would come to Union Kitchen and we would do the pitch on site. Funny enough, I was that week that the pitch was meant to happen. I was out of town because it was a residency for the MBA. So it was my husband that had to go and pitch for me. And he obviously did a good job.
Oh, wow. That's great. I didn't know that. Okay. And I'm sure they start you off with just a few locations before they expand you to other stores, right?
Yeah, single location. They started with a single location, or did then.
Yes.
And then depends on how you do. Then you can start talking to other stores. You're in the system, but you had to go from store to store and say, look, we're in the store, in Friendship Heights, and we do this well. And so we look at the package, check it out, then say, okay, I think we can give you a shot. And then once you have 2, 3, it starts snowballing, becomes much easier. And it gets to a point where you can then approach again the upper management and say, look, we've done pretty well this past year, and we would be interested in being considered for planogram, meaning then they put you on the whole region of the stores, and you're part of what the actual map or locations of different products is. So technically, every store carries MasPanadas in the Atlantic, for example.
That's great. And you started originally doing the distribution yourself, or you're outsourcing that?
So we did a part of the distribution when we're really small, and we got the first couple of stores. We would it'd be more of a deli product, a bulk product that we would deliver, and they would sell in their delis, and that we did ourselves. Then for the retail product, once we launched that line in 2018, that started going through, so Whole Foods through Union Kitchen. They have a distribution arm, and that's the beauty of the incubator system that they have, is you have the commercial kitchen where you can get all your permits and have a community that is walking the same path as you, so you can share all this knowledge. Then they have the stores at the other end and the distribution to connect it all, so you can get really quickly to shelf and have a chance to really check if your product makes sense and make iterations and learnings before you attempt to connect with a big retailer like Whole Foods.
Sure. And then there comes a point where you're actually probably outgrowing Union Kitchen, right? Where does that come?
Correct. So it gets to a point where, okay, too big for Union Kitchen. So you go into a regional distributor. We started working with Rainforest Distribution at that point that helped us grow into Mid-Atlantic and also Northeast.
Okay. And they're still doing your distribution, or?
At this point, we've gone on to the next level. We work now with national distributors. So the main ones are UNFI and KEHI, or natural and organic products.
Okay. And at one point, Margarita, does it come to that you need your own space and you need to bring some certain things in-house and start doing it? You've outgrown it.
So at Union Kitchen, we started with a little table. All we had was a little table. That's it. And we had our stuff underneath, and was 3 pots. And you shared the equipment in the kitchen. Then, okay, we're a little big. We need to start bringing your own equipment. So they give you a pot that you use to then have your equipment and have kind of a little tiny space. And so when we hit early 2019, so about 18 months into it, realized starting to get too tight. We need more people, we need more equipment. And the usual path is for you at that point to go to a co-packer. So you find a manufacturer that's already well established, and you teach them how to make your product, and they make it for you, and you focus just on the marketing and sales. But for us, it was important to keep on having the manufacturing, because that's what gives life to the social mission, right? And then, hey, maybe I have a good start. Really, the opportunity fell on my lap of a local small manufacturer, empanada manufacturer. They decided to close their business, so I take over the lease, buy the equipment from them, and suddenly here we go. We have our own plant and start manufacturing or going larger scale. Mm-hmm. We doubled the size of it in 2020, and we're exploding at the seams right now. We're actually building a new plant.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's exciting.
Yes. When starting off, obviously you want to get the word out there and get known that, this is what we're doing, this is the product. Are you do that yourself, or did you do a third party as far as the marketing, or I don't know if there was any advertising involved, just to let people know, hey, here I am, and this is what we're doing. Please taste it, try it.
So it's same kind of idea as the manufacturing, right? You start with a little table and you do everything yourself. And you have
Hmm.
a little bit more equipment. You start growing stages, small stages. So, and different pieces of the business have grown at different rates. So, say operations right now, it's a fairly sturdy platform for the business. I have a wonderful CEO that runs the whole show when it comes to manufacturing. And we have a large team behind it, right? For food safety, quality assurance, quality control, et cetera, et cetera. Marketing, sales, been a little bit behind. So just this year, we hired full-time, now running the CSO, so Chief Sales Officer. That's been a wonderful addition to the team. The marketing is only starting to take off, and still mostly me, which is a former intern that joined the team and starting to take over more the marketing aspect, but it's still more in diapers versus other parts of the business. So it's still a lot of the posting still often me, and it's just guerrilla approach so far. Eventually, as we grow, we'll have then somebody more versed in the topic, an experienced person that can run with it and outsource certain parts of it. But that's the part that's furthest behind.
Wow. So a lot of it's been just the growth, the word of mouth, and just organic then?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Yes.
See, the product speaks for itself.
Of course, of course, of course. What would you say, Margarita, drives and motivates you?
That's a very good question. So it's something I often wonder about because um, it's interesting, like what gets you out of bed in the morning, right? And why do you do something you do? So people really questioned it for a while. Like first, you want to go teach? You have a PhD, you're going to be teaching middle school? Like, yeah, it's fulfilling, satisfying. I actually really enjoy the time I spend with kids. And then from that, like you quit a steady job with a good pay to go make empanadas. That's street food you buy in the corner. Like, why? And in the United States, is that going to make any sense? You have all this education that you should be using to, you know, get a solid job somewhere that pays hundreds of thousands. Well, how do I know that's going to make me happy? I think this path here, it's a challenge. It's something I'm going to build myself. It goes from scratch, and the sense of how to put it in words is hard. It's something you are creating that you can see growing, and it's not only watching like your product on shelf, right? And knowing that you achieve that, but also the people part, right? Having people that you can make such a big difference for by doing small things. So giving them a job, supporting them with simple things like how do you open a bank account, that then find themselves in a much better position. So you're not changing the world, but changing the world for that person in particular, while at the same time creating this wonderful brand, this wonderful product that people enjoy. So that to me, I think what gets me going every day.
Yeah. I love the part of it being a Latino myself that, most of the team there, you said over 80%, women, Latina women, over 90+%, I think. It's just wonderful how, where we come from, we still try to give back. And even though I'm sure originally that was not the plan for you, maybe that you weren't thinking of that originally, maybe it was, I wasn't sure, but it has evolved and it always changes.
Yes, and that's something also I think essential. It's being adaptive, I guess, and capable to change with changing conditions and find what's the best alternative. Right, the pandemic certainly taught us the necessity of that, right? And I started a business to help this friend, right, to be able to then generate a job that would give her a visa. And then, well, actually, there's a real business opportunity here. Take on that, right? And okay, we need more people. And it turns out that when you have the people that I would find were Hispanics. And then when you were looking for more, they were bringing more Hispanics. And then, I mean, it's the natural, obvious thing. You help people when you see a need, right? So, well, like, yeah, they would come to work for me. But okay, we're going to start doing ADP, for example, right? So payroll, because we're getting to that size. And okay, I need your bank account. So instead of writing you a check, we deposit into your bank account. It's so much easier and cheaper. oh, I don't have a bank account. Well, that's kind of like a basic need in life. Let's go and figure out how to get you a bank account, right? Little things like that. Well, hey, there was, their kids sometimes, like, they're not being able to work because they have young children. They don't know what to do with them sometimes. And the neighbor that's taking care of them is not available, leaves or something. Well, we need to do something about this too. Let's figure out what daycares are around here and how do we get your kid into a proper daycare when they're actually being able to learn and make the best of these early days versus being sitting with your neighbor in front of the TV. So it's little things. And that percent has become a very big part of the business. I think part also of the success, because if you have a workforce that is truly committed and dedicated to the company, not just because it's a way to pay the bills, they go the extra way for you too.
Yeah. Speaking of the subject and the team and the workforce, I know it was just started with just you helping out a friend, and now you're over 50 people. How has it evolved as far as, hiring the right people? You mentioned you have other C-level executives now in the organization, as far as finding the right talent, putting them in the right place with the right roles.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough part because beginning, okay, I honestly had no idea what I was getting into. The food industry is fairly complex and competitive. And the assumption in general is, well, everybody eats about 3 times a day, right? And then snacks in between. Obviously, selling a food product is going to be a great business. Look at the size of the grocery stores, and they're everywhere. And it's actually very intricate and very difficult to really break through. And the people I started working with were people that were just helping with the line, right? And the management aspects I always took care of. But it gets to a point where, even though I'm a quick learner, it gets to a point where, well, bigger decisions and the risk is much higher of making mistakes. I learned by making mistakes. So when you're small, that's the way to do it, and make as many mistakes as you can. You start getting bigger, it gets to a point where you start feeling that pressure, that pain. Well, you need people that know better, that have the experience and can drive this faster. But then you have to be able to convince people that your company makes sense, that it's actually going to make go somewhere. And you have to have the cash to pay them, or at least the capacity to negotiate something that will make sense. So it took us a long while to get there. And I got lucky, really, again, that had 2 different people introduce me to who is now my COO, that they thought he would be a very good match for what we're doing and what we're looking for, and that he was willing to make the jump. So that was once I had him, again, it's that snowball effect, right? Because we had him leaving the company, backing up the company, working with the company, it became much easier to attract other people.
Yeah. You were just mentioning now, as far as the early stages of the business and having sort of setbacks and mistakes and learning from them. What would you say throughout the life of the business this far was, you would say, the biggest fail or the biggest setback that you've had, and what did you learn from that?
So many to pick from. Let's see. Sometimes thinking too big, or really it's okay to think big, but take small steps. Don't think big and take big steps. So to give you an example, so okay, we want to become the go-to brand, the staple brand of empanadas across the US. Okay, so that's the ultimate goal. And there's a lot of pieces underneath that, right? But so, okay, we're going to launch a retail line. And we get packaging, because you need packaging. You have to have all these regulatory aspects, nutritional panel, et cetera, et cetera. And it's much cheaper to, when you get packaging design and you order that of, the first order. If you order they won't take a few hundred, right? But a couple thousand, okay. But if you order several thousand, half the cost. So, okay, well, we're going to be the biggest brand in the US, right? So let's buy a lot of packaging because it's going to be so much cheaper. And then you realize, okay, where do I put the packaging? There's no space to put the packaging. So the basement, my basement, was full of packaging for the longest time, for my husband's dismay and my children's fascination, because he made a great mace. And then it's, okay, well, now you have to pay for all this packaging. So all this money is suddenly stuck in there. Your working capital is gone because it's stuck in packaging. And then the worst is when you realize there's a mistake with the packaging. There's this one seal that's not right. So then you figure out, well, how do you do with all this packaging? Well, we print all the stickers and grab box by box and stick this thing on there to make it better. And we keep on using it. But then you realize, oh, there's an actual mistake we can't work with. So you have to throw away the rest of it with the money that went into it. So
Wow.
iterations, small steps.
Was there, now that you mentioned this, was there ever a point, Margarita, where you're like, wow, I'm so close to this line. Can we make it another week, month, whatever, year?
About every week or so, that's the thought that crosses my mind, if not every day. it's okay. Big detail. I am an adrenaline addict, and I've concluded you have to be an adrenaline addict to be successful in this kind of situation. Because, and this is repeating maybe slightly different words, something that I heard the founders of Sweet Green say at some point, that in the same day you go from thinking you're taking over the world to considering, you're probably going bankrupt.
Uh-huh.
And it's this emotional roller coaster. And it's things you didn't anticipate that come your way, or just struggles of the business growing, right? A fast growing business, it's a lot of cash and changes incredibly fast. So it always feels like you're on the edge, calculating, making sure you measure everything right. And every once in a while, it's like, oh my God, I hit this wall. What do we need to do? Can we actually climb it? No. Can we take it down? No. Okay, well, we're going to dig a hole under and figure out a way, how deep it goes and go around, because we're going to make it happen no matter what. But those kinds of obstacles come on a regular basis.
Margarita, with your experience, if someone came to you and they wanted to open their own business, maybe it's in the same industry, totally, or maybe something else, any advice or pointers you would give that individual?
First is to make sure, again, that passion, to have that drive. Are you going to be able to, even when things are just as bad as can be, are you going to be able to rely on that passion to get up and try again and figure out a way? You have that grit and that passion that fuels it. That's the first thing. And then second is to also have the resilience for it, to take on a lot of adversity and a lot of just no's, and still be able to move forward. So you have to really have that in you. And that's something that's innate to you, right? And the second aspect is to question if their life is at a point where they can't take on something like it. It's demanding on your family, it's demanding on your relationship with your significant others in general, on your health. So if you are really, 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 like, you have to do it, great. If you have doubts, it's hard. So I don't think even though it's very hard to me, being perfectly transparent here, very honest, it's super hard to be an entrepreneur right now, right? And start your own business and do your own thing. And I think the pandemic even pushed it out further. And it's great that you can always try to reinvent yourself, always try something new, always be bold. But at the same time, this is very, very hard. And we always see the romance side of entrepreneurship. And people on social media, including me, right? We talk about the big wins. We talk about all the beautiful stuff. But really what's underneath, it's draining. So you got to be ready for it. And also make sure you have the financial stability to be able to do it, because you're not going to be able to make a living out of a small business for a period of time. And so you got to be ready to face that. Either you have a significant other that makes sufficient money to pay the bills, you have enough savings for it, or many people I know and respect, because it's a lot. They do start the business and work a full-time job for many years, and they work it all together at the same time till the business is large enough to be able to support them too.
I'm glad you mentioned all this, especially that the last couple of parts with having, I guess, whether the capital and savings or another partner that has the savings to support the family. And also, as far as the toll, being a business owner, the toll it takes having a family. You with three boys and your husband, how was that as far as starting the business and growing it? How has it affected the family?
It's difficult because I'm gone a lot, right? There's times when I've been at the plant, being part of the line till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And it takes so much of your time, your bandwidth, your energy. And let's think, for relationships, right? There's been my husband, sometimes we're like boats in the night, right? It's just, we barely cross. And sometimes, it's like, oh yeah, my husband, the guy that sleeps next to me, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And for the kids, it's then I haven't been as available as sometimes a mom is, right? Show up at every game, show up at every school event. And it's, I think, bad in some senses. There's sometimes balls that drop that I regret I did. And then there's other aspects that I think are actually positive, right? So it's something we've made a family affair. So my husband's actually the one that developed many of the recipes originally. He's the one that cooks. He's the one that does the foodie. I own the company. I'm the face of the company. He's the one that actually knows food and makes dinner. and yeah, he's actually very good at making all sorts of Hispanic dishes. And the kids get involved in the business. So they're often at demos with me, at shows with me. They talk about the product. For me, really what brought it home in that sense was last year, I took my then 12-year-old with me to a small expo in DC. And that first hour was VIP people in the industry, second hour, general public. And there were so many people. He was supposed to be helping putting together the product and serving it. And I was talking to people, but there were so many people coming through. He ended up having to talk to people too. And I had a rep from a large distributor call me later and say, I was so impressed. I didn't get to talk to you, but I talked to your son and he gave me the most amazing pitch I've ever heard. So, hey, great lessons for them too, right? And because they have to tag along, that's just it. They've been in conversations that you learn as importance of life, big aspects of life from other angles. So for instance, once I had to have a chat with one of our, had to fire one of our employees. He was apparently offering drugs to a teenager that was an intern that year. Of course, something absolutely unacceptable. We fired him on the spot. And my son was sitting there that day. So measure the chat at school, don't do drugs, drugs are bad for you, versus sitting in a conversation with someone who's losing their job and have to go, right? Because of a relationship with drugs. So that's very different level of, I think, what they can learn, even though I might not be quite as present as other moms might be.
I love that. I love that story as far as involving the family and taking them to events.
It is a family affair. And that's the only way that I think, even though it's still strenuous on everyone, a way we can all still, live this together.
Yeah, because even sometimes for myself, as a business owner, sometimes it's hard to. I mean, I'm always thinking of the business, 24/7. I'm sure you have that, with their marketing, where I forgot to send this email or reach out to send this other thing, and it's always on. And then, luckily, I have a great wife and partner who's sometimes like, okay, Otto, you need to let's take some time and unplug and be with the kids, because if not, I can just do this forever. Yes.
Exactly. And that's, for me, it's also huge, that partnership, right? Somebody that can ground you and can have an objective point of view and help you sometimes just wriggle you down, like, hey, okay, come down to earth. No more empanadas, because all day long, empanadas everywhere. Oh, here's my little friend. My
I love that.
Emmy the empanada. There you go. Emmy empanada is hand knit. So it's a crochet, okay?
Okay.
And I learned to make it because it's the way I relax. I sit in front of the TV and I can't sit still. So I crochet. And what do I crochet? Empanadas. That's all I can think about. So I think that's huge, to get your family involved in all possible ways. Make them partners in this journey. And that relieves some of the pressure that growing a business has on your relationships.
Yeah. Are there any habits or skills you feel you have that have helped you, whether on the business side of things or just personally in life?
Yes. So going back to science training, I think that helped me understand then, when you're trying to solve a problem, right? It's a scientific method, right? That you have that problem, think you have a solution, hypothesis, right? And you gather information, data that help you support or not support your hypotheses, and then you make decisions based on that, right? So it's that same process every day for anything that comes your way. Well, what is the issue? What do I think is the solution? Or what do I think is the product, right? Like the problem is, well, people are very busy, don't have time to cook, but you want to feel good about something you eat, or you want to take just 5 minutes cooking it. Well, an empanada made with the right ingredients can be quite nutritious, healthy, still be convenient, and it's 5 minutes in the microwave. The kids love it, can be an appetizer, can be a meal, right? So, okay, well, is my solution valid? Does really this product fit that problem? We'll go find information, go talk to people, go have them try the product. Okay, it seems to make sense. Let's get it on shelf. Is it moving? Yes, it's moving. Oh wait, the packaging needs too tall. We need a shorter bag so it looks better on the shelf. Change the packaging. It's all iterations, iterations, iterations. And that's the scientific approach. And that's something that you can apply absolutely anywhere. The other aspect, I think, for me is the grit and the adaptability. It comes a bit from the most important lessons tend to be the most difficult, the most painful, right? So having to leave Colombia when I wasn't really planning on, and it was so difficult, so traumatizing to have to leave everything behind and come to a different country, learn a different language, fit with a different culture, and reinvent myself. Like, hey, once you do that, the rest is not scary anymore, and I'm not afraid to try new things. And there's always you can always learn it and figure it out.
Yeah, it's so true. Do you tell your children, as far as that part of your life, Colombia, and everything you experienced and went through?
Yes, I do. I think it's important for them to know, and I make a point of traveling to Colombia at least once a year with them and have them spend some time on their own. So they stay with my mother, and so they interact with my cousins and the local. They stay there and live there. It's a farm where my mom lives, so they have to go mug the barns in the morning and then go play afternoon soccer with the kids, in the town. So it's a way for them. I want them to experience as much as possible that Colombian side of them.
I love that. You mentioned several times as far as having a passion and interest in what you do. And I think that's very important as far as when you're doing a business, just because you said there's going to be a lot of setbacks. There's going to be failures down the road. And in order to handle that, there has to be more to it, because if not, you can easily just quit like that and be done. And you were just mentioning how you were doing also for a period of time real estate or family business. That didn't interest you very much as the empanadas did. If someone's listening to this and saying, I want to look for something that I like, or I'm interested, or there's a passion, but obviously you have to make a living out of it too. Any suggestions as far as what they can do to, I guess, explore and look at different avenues?
Yeah, I think you have to go from the theoretical side of things. Like, okay, I think I tend to be better at this and enjoy, hanging out with people or food or pets or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, well, what are options? And try them out and figure out a way. Can you do, be an assistant for a bit of time, do an internship of some sort, but try it out, because until you're not living it, you don't really understand if it fits or not. And sometimes that trying it out might be a few years. And you might have been absolutely convinced this is it at the beginning. And then through time, realize this is not it. And it's okay to change paths and reinvent yourself, but you've got to try it out. And sometimes it's not what you expect at all, in a good way or a bad way. And while you're at it, a different opportunity might come your way. So that's the second aspect is always keep your eyes open for opportunities, because you never know.
It's so true. It reminds me, I'm in commercial real estate, and I've done deals with big, like Walmart, big national companies, but the majority of my business is other fellow immigrants or minority, whether they're Latin, Asian, Indian, African, whatever it may be. And a lot of people in my role go after the big law firm deals because that's where the big money is and the commission. And it's like, Otto, focus on that. That's where, the value of your time. And I'm like, I know, but there's something different when I'm working with someone else in the relationship we build, which is a small, medium-sized business here locally. And I think they just appreciate it more than the sort of the bigger conglomerate national one, because it's just another transaction for them. And
exactly.
Yeah. And the majority of my business is with other minority people, and I love it. And I enjoy it.
It has to be that emotional connection to things, right? To really make you happy. And figuring that one out takes some time. And you're going to probably stumble several times before you figure that one out. And that's the other part I think that goes along with it. It's be open-minded, right? Even though it seems obvious, well, go for the big corporate opportunity, it's going to make a lot of money. But if you never gave the opportunity to do deals with the smaller businesses, you wouldn't know that that's actually fulfilling to you, right?
Yeah. No, that's so true. What would you say, Margarita, is your biggest challenge with your role today in MasPanadas?
Managing people is probably the most difficult bit of it, especially when the team has grown so incredibly fast that we are building the plane at the same time we're flying it. Okay, so so it's structuring roles. And then as things change and you bring somebody new, well, what piece do they take and how does it change everybody else's roles and relationships between people? That's probably the biggest challenge right now, and something we're working diligently, with a lot of intensity nowadays to make sure everybody understands their expectations, roles, and responsibilities, and don't step on other people's toes. And a consequence of just growing so fast.
It's talking about the growth and hiring people and everything else. Do you have like hiring manager internally that's sort of dedicated to that part?
No, so I wish. That's a role we're creating right now, or sort
Okay.
of grooming someone, training her to become sort of the HR person and hiring and manage all that human capital we have. It definitely become essential at this size. But beginning, as far as management went, I had this one person that's now becoming HR, head of HR. She was helping me with absolutely everything. And we just both ran around doing a little bit of everything. So, okay, we'll pay a bill, write a check, and then talk to a new employee that we might be interviewing, deal with a problem on the line, jump on the line and make empanadas online. And we just ran around doing whatever was on fire mostly. So now it's the point where, okay, we need to be able to not just be reacting to every little instance and waiting for those fires, but be able to prevent them, plan ahead, and have the right structure in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're sort of in a way backing into.
Yeah, I like that. What do you know now that you wish you would have known at the start of your business career?
So the importance of cash flow, which seems in a way kind of obvious when you say it, but when you live it, it's not so obvious. So, and again, particular aspects to an industry, in the case of the food industry and consumer packaged goods, the cycles are quite long because, okay, I buy packaging, I buy ingredient, I pay labor to make an order I just received, right? It takes me a couple of weeks, let's say. I turn in that order, already several costs associated with, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they won't pay till 30, 60, 90 days later. And you're excited because, hey, we want to grow, get more accounts, grow. That should be the goal, right? And you get all these accounts, you start growing. So it's like, I have all this stuff in receivables, all this stuff in inventory, and no money in the bank account. And that's kind of a problem. That's going to kill the business, right? So being able to gauge those pieces, it's much trickier than I assumed at the beginning.
A lot of with business, especially if this is your first one, it's sort of learning on the go, learning on the job per se. Have you had any mentors throughout your journey? And if so, what did you learn from them?
Great one. And yes, super important to have mentors and surround yourself with people that have experience that you don't have, and pick the brain as often as you can. So it's certainly been the case. Union Kitchen has been very helpful in that sense. And guidance, we're part of the accelerator program, and they've been very good about networking and looking out for relationships that can help their brands. Then I also have had the chance to meet various other people through, say, Bethesda Green. It's a group we belong to for a long time. And then other entrepreneurs in the area that might be a little bit behind, a little bit ahead, or the same place where you are, right? So people you can share knowledge, tips, and just commiserate. But mentors have been a key, really. So people I can grab the phone and call and say, this is the problem I'm dealing with right now. What can I do to solve this? And they're people that are happy to help you figure things out and happy to think about other problems on their own for a little bit. and help you with things like, hey, well, I'm not being able to get enough. I can't get enough chicken. Where else would I go to get more chicken? Or I need more freezer space. Or, there's this employee that's going through this. What can I do? So huge. And people that are exactly doing the same thing you are might be retired or are in adjacent fields. For example, we work with Michael Berger and some of his people that are that were behind Elevation Burger and El Pupetela. So it's restaurants. That's food industry, but not quite manufacturing, not quite this bulk retail aspect. So, but again, just have tools and resources that they're willing to share and make the journey so much more fun for everyone.
That's great. Coming to an end here soon, what are you most excited about? What does the future look like the next couple of years for you in the business?
Taking over the world one empanada at a time. So we are expanding our brand this year significantly. We've expanded our footprint about 400% already with the MasPanadas product line. We just launched Costco Southeast, HelloFresh. We're about to launch Sprouts, and we have several reviews coming up. So it's the idea is to keep on doubling more or less our revenue year to year, double to triple, and just saturate the market across the U.S.
Wow, I love that. I know you said you're currently building your new center. When will that be ready?
Hopefully Q1 next year.
Okay.
You know how construction is, and yes, so, but that's the goal.
Margarita, you briefly mentioned COVID, and I want to ask, how did that affect the business, if at all?
It almost killed us. It was tough because so we mostly depended on what I mentioned in the beginning, right? Those bulk empanadas sold to delis. So food service is the degree that then we started selling to restaurants, bars, hotels, and venues. So that was over 80% of our sales that are all tied to social interactions and gatherings, and all went kapoof overnight.
Wow.
So over 80% of our business disappeared. At 7 employees at the time, remember really well, we had a meeting like, who knows where the world's going, not sure what's going to happen. Let's close for a couple of weeks while things are figuring out things, but there has to be a way around. And we had started recently, about a few months back, the retail line, and we had a few stores, and it's expensive, much more expensive to do a retail product than a bulk product is through food service. So, but we might have to start pushing on this retail and pivot to just pushing on retail and see if we can make the product for other people under their brand. And that's when we started doing private label. And fortunately, that took off. And it was expensive, difficult, stressful, but we turned it around, and here we are.
Wow, that's a great turnaround. When you're not busy working, what do you like to do for fun in your free time?
I love reading. I read practically every night. That's my way to kind of disconnect, right? And then relax. And then spend time outside. It's another wonderful thing. Enjoy. And there's really not a lot more time for anything.
Yeah. For reading, fiction, nonfiction, or?
Mostly fiction.
Okay.
It's what I read for relaxing. Yeah. So something grasping and fun, exciting, but on the light side.
Yeah.
I'm trying to disconnect.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you need that to sort of disconnect, like you said. If people want to learn more about you, Margarita and MasPanadas, where can they go and learn more, or just find out where can they go and buy the product?
So you can certainly go to our website. There's more information there. And you can find our product across the DMV area at a variety of outlets, Whole Foods, Mom's Organic, Giant Online, let's see, a number of independents. And also you'd see it through HelloFresh right now. So you can order it online too with your HelloFresh orders.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today. Really, really had a good time.
Oh, well, thank you, Otto. Really appreciate the opportunity. Super fun.
Okay. Take care.
You too.